Now, this is the first chart out of three, and they're titled Yahweh's Decrees to Annihilate the Jews and the First Group of Israel. I've given you a few notes here so that you can do your own research. Isaac was age 60 when he had Jacob and Esau. Now, Jacob was at Peniel, and he was blessed by the angel and given a new name, Israel, because he had overcome sin. You'll get reference to that in Genesis 32:29. The word Israel is a name delegated by Yahweh on those people who are faithful, keeping his laws in the last days. Yahweh again chooses this group as the new Israel that will be redeemed in the last days. You can go to Isaiah 42:19-20 and 49:7-13 to get reference to that. The new chosen Israel by Yahweh will know, and they will call his name Yahweh. You will get references to that in Isaiah 52:6-10, 58:3-8, 48:16-19, 49:5-13, 42:5-9, 43:10, 44:1-8, and 45:5-8. New Israel will be protected by Yahweh, and no one will be killed when the second temple is to be rebuilt. Yahweh promises protection over all of the people, his chosen people, when it's rebuilt. You will notice that in the last couple of reports that I've given to you, when the people out of Babylon returned back to Jerusalem, they thought they were it. They were ignorant, and they had absolutely refused any correction, and they ignored the warnings from all of the prophets. And when they went back to rebuild the second temple, 580,000 of them were killed. As you can see, the new chosen Israel will not only know his name, but call him by his name, and in particular, they will be praying to the name of Yahweh. Now, if you were to ask a rabbi today, why doesn't he call their God Rabbi, he will tell you that they don't know how to interpret it. Now, the reason why that is, of course, handed down over the last couple of thousand years. Yahweh said in Jeremiah 44:26, he said, I will not allow them to utter my name ever again, and he took it out of their mouth. Now, this is chart number 2 out of 3, and you'll see here on your screen 10 tribes of Israel were rejected and given to the Assyrians as captives. That's approximately 130 years prior to Jeremiah at 721 BC. I've given you another note there. Jeremiah was giving instructions in the years of 650 to 570 BC. It tells you in the good book, which we'll read the text, the remainder of the Talmud Jews, and that includes Talmud Jews today, ultimately and totally destroyed, and they were given to Babylon in 586 BC. Then they were dispersed to all of the nations, followed by the sword and the famine. That's what Yahweh says. I will send the sword and famine and pestilence after them until they are ultimately totally destroyed. And that on your right-hand side, you'll see they are never to be redeemed, but to be dispersed with the sword, pestilence, and famine. Now, it always worried me over the last 20 years, how could the group called Israel be redeemed and taken back under the hand of Yahweh when he has totally rejected all of them? It's quite clear that he despised them, detested them, and their abominations for their lies and their wickedness. How could the God that demands obedience and loyalty and faithfulness to him, how could these people be brought back? Well, not until you realize what we're looking at here in the scriptures, and you differentiate between the Israel of the old and the Israel in the prophecies that will be redeemed. And you can see here, Jeremiah gave his warnings to them 650 to 570 BC, Isaiah 619 to 530 BC, and Ezekiel 597 BC, gave them numerous warnings, but they refused any correction until Yahweh finally decreed evil on them, until they were all to be annihilated, sending the sword, pestilence, and famine after them. Now the same falsehood and the false teaching that Yahweh detested, which originated in 600 BC, and this was in Babylon. It was written up as the Talmud, or the oral law, out of Babylon. It is still upheld by the rabbis and taught to the people today. And this has resulted in many millions of Jews who have been slaughtered over the last 2,500 years. Now, I gave you reports on those. If you go to YouTube, The Ruling Elite, and the other one is Nearly the End. I want you to have a look at Jeremiah 29, 1-7, and you'll see a fake letter inserted, allegedly from Jeremiah. This they used to support up their fake attempt to rebuild the Second Temple. But Yahweh was not with them, as you've already seen in my report. 580,000 of them were killed. Now, according to the old book, only those who take a stand and reject the Talmud, and reject the false teachings and the lies from their lying scribes, only those who repent, seeking Yahweh and calling out on him, and using his name, praying to him by his name, and discontinuing the name of Hashem, will be those people who will be saved by the hand of Yahweh. Please look at my reports called Nearly the End, and the other one is The Ruling Elite, where I've clearly shown you that the secret societies have been totally in charge of all of the doctrines that have flowed through all of the Christian churches, flowed through all of Judaism, or the Jewish people, over the last hundreds and hundreds of years. And it's not hard to understand when you look at these reports and you Google the evidence that are placed before you. It's not hard to understand that the people have been so thoroughly duped and so thoroughly deceived. Also, you've got to realize that this Talmud teaching, this falsehood that came out of Babylon, this is what the millions of people have died because they didn't know Yahweh. And those who hang on to that false teaching today will be destroyed by Yahweh. Make no mistake that Yahweh repeatedly got Ezekiel, Isaiah, and Jeremiah, all of the prophets, to warn these people that they were so wicked and he detested their ways. Today, the same teachings are being upheld, and it's such a shame that millions and millions and millions of Jews have had to die because of their false teaching. You will also see in my previous reports that the added words such as the Talmud, the Mishnah, the Gemara, and the New Testament are all added words that Yahweh explicitly said, do not add to my words. And it is these added words that the secret societies have used to form out and make up concoctions such as the Christian message and the present day Mishnah, Gemara, and Talmud Judaism. There were so many lies told by these Jewish, the usurped people as rabbis. The stubborn, defiant rabbis were repeatedly told they were wicked and evil and to give up their detestable ways as they had been rejected by Yahweh their God. But they ignored these warnings and still believed they were his people and that they had his support and authority to build the Second Temple. When they returned to Jerusalem, 580,000 were killed. The entire minyan of the Sanhedrin were executed, including Rabbis Akiva and Gamaliel is regarded in the New Testament of the Bible as being the teacher of Paul. Their Talmud, oral law, and the New Testament are added words that Yahweh said, do not add to my word. Some of the sayings that Yahweh said Do not add to my words. That's what Yahweh said. And when he does come, and when the second temple is built, the Bible is absolutely full of these sayings from Yahweh. He says, I am coming, I will be in your midst. I will be a wall of fire all around you. I will return in mercy. My temple will be rebuilt in Jerusalem. I will save you, and you will be a blessing. Do not fear. Let your hands be strong. I will give Israel powers through Yahweh. They will walk with his name, Yahweh. Yahweh said, on that day Yahweh will protect the inhabitants of Jerusalem. Even the weakest will be as strong as David. And all the nations that come up to Jerusalem, he will wage war. Yahweh will go out and wage war with all of the nations that come up to wage war against Jerusalem and his people. Well, this group of ignorant, defiant rabbis really made a big mistake, didn't they? Because when they did go back to attempt to build the second temple, what happened? 500,000 of them were slaughtered. And Rabbi Akiva was taken out, tied to a stake, and he was skinned alive. Now, when we're talking about the Talmud, there is absolutely hundreds of quotes that you can get out of it, and some of them are just too despicable and too disgusting, and I've cut a lot of them out. But back in the years when there was the terrible atrocities done on the Jews, it was mainly done on Talmud-adhering Jews because of their Talmud activities. They weren't persecuted because they were worshipping Yahweh and worshipping along the lines of the Bible. They were tormented and they were thrown out of towns and they were really slaughtered because of their activities regarding the activities that they have in their mind, in their lives, from the Talmud. Now, on the screen, you've got a few there, and I'll read them out to you quickly. All Gentile children are animals. Gentile girls are in a state of nida, which is filth from birth. Jews may use subterfuge or lies to circumvent a Gentile. Gentiles prefer sex with cows. When a Jew murders a Gentile, there will be no death penalty. What a Jew steals from a Gentile, he may keep. A Jew needs to pay a Gentile his wages owed him for the work. He does not have to pay. In Yebamoth 63a, it says that Adam has sexual intercourse with all the animals in the Garden of Eden. It declares that the agriculture is the lowest occupation. A Jew may marry a 3-year-old girl. A Jew may have sex with a child as long as the child is less than 9 years old. When a grown-up man has intercourse with a girl, it is nothing. And I won't read out the bottom one. You can read it yourself when you do your own research. But all of the references of where they can be found is on your screen, and you can do your own research. But it'll give you an idea why Yahweh is so livid, so angry, and disgusting with their Talmud adherents. I might add that the rabbis do not teach the people, nor tell the people, or explain to the people about what these things are and where they are in the Talmud. They like to keep it quiet, and you will not find out. Now, if that's not enough to upset you with the conduct of people, no wonder Yahweh, their creator God, was so angry, so upset, and decreed not only evil on them, but decreed that they will all be totally annihilated. And that has been happening to them over the last 2,000 years. But have a look at a couple of other things here. This was published in the New York Daily News, February 28, 1994. Rabbi Yaakov Perrin said, 1 million Arabs are not worthy of a Jewish fingernail. This statement by Maimonides, the Mishnah of the Torah, the Mosnane Publishing Corporation, Brooklyn, New York, in 1990, Chapter 10, English translation, page 184, quote, accordingly, if we see an idolater, a Gentile, being swept away or drowning in the river, we should help him? No, we should not help him. If we see that his life is in danger, we should help him? No, we should not help him. And the Hebrew text of the Fieldheim 1981 edition of the Mishneh Torah states this as well. Now, if that be the baseline attitude that comes out of the Talmud, you can understand why these people were persecuted over the last 1,000 years. The New World Order. Now, the global government and the United States of America Congress have already accepted and approved the Jewish Talmud Noahide laws. Now, when this happens, you're going to find there'll be absolute horror, because one of the tenets in it, you're not going to be able to get your own solicitor or lawyer. And the other is, you're going to be actually guilty, and you have to prove your own innocence. Now, can you imagine how bad that will be for our society? These Jewish Noahide laws, by the way, will take over and replace the Ten Commandments as the base laws for our judicial system. Now, you're looking on your screen. This is a report that we got from the Forensic Laboratory of the government. We took rainwater, which we had collected in glass bottles. We took it there to be analysed because we knew that the parts per million were around the 70 to 80 parts per million. I might add, when you're looking on this list, you will see that there is silver there. I put colloidal silver water into it to see if that would show up in the test, and it did. But the main thing that you've got to look at here is that there's heaps of aluminium in there, there's arsenic in there, there's barium, there's heaps of boron, and there's heaps of iron, and there's heaps of manganese, there's a lot of strontium, and there's heaps of zinc. All of these are soft metals which will deteriorate your health. Now, coming up, you will see the Secret Society Oath, the Secret Society Covenant, which covers the Bilderbergs, the Masons, the Club of Rome, the Fabians. All of them are covered in this Secret Society Oath which they have agreed to. This shows you their plans. Now, there's no doubt that the Illuminati, combined with all of the secret societies, which are mentioned in their oath as different fronts, are used. You've got academics, you've got politicians, you've got doctors, you've got the medical world, you've got advisors and lobbyists to the government. They are all behind what you are given to do, to adhere to follow, including the Agenda 21, which is destroying our country.